You are listening to Vessel of Light. I'm Sam Renfro, Reiki Master, Fascial Maneuvers Coach, and someone who believes the body is not separate from the spiritual path. It is the spiritual path. This show lives at the intersection of two worlds that have been kept apart for too long: the wisdom of the spirit and the intelligence of the body. Every episode, we ask not just how to open what's been closed, but why it closed in the first place. If this feels alive for you, the Fully Human Collective is a community that I created where we go deeper on exactly this. You can find the link in the show notes. Now, take a deep breath and let's begin. Welcome back to the Vessel of Light podcast. My name is Sam. This is my friend Erika. We have a beautiful episode for you today. And I just wanted to take a second to really allow everyone to feel as if they're included in this conversation, because this is a little bit of a different flow than I normally do. And I probably say that all the time and you're like, wait, what? But today, this is just a free-flowing conversation between friends, and a lot of times I'll do these interview style questions, which are amazing. But today we're gonna be a little bit more open, and I will introduce you to Erika. She is such a good friend of mine. We've known each other for, I don't know, like just shy of 2 years, I think. And she was teaching at a yoga studio that I was volunteering at for a while, and then I still do a lot of my events at. And it kind of just became one of those things where we would see each other and we're like, what's going on here? And then we realized that there was a lot that we had in common. And then as we became friends and started hanging out, we realized there was even more that we had in common. And now it's like we just get to kind of explore these parallel paths a little bit. So yeah, thank you so much for being here.
Yeah, thank you so much for having me. I feel really excited. This is my first podcast I'm featured on, so feel good to be here.
Good, yeah. And we can kind of talk a little bit about what we're both in the space of embodiment, and I think both of us have had this journey where it really is like we know that there is something much more, it's much deeper that's happening here. Like there's just such a wider scope, there's a wider energy that's guiding us, there's a huge spiritual and energetic component that is just so present in life that you get to see and feel and experience. And there's also this body, and that those two things aren't separate, but at the same time they can be so far away from each other um, if not worked with properly, right? I don't know if I'm saying that correctly in your experience, but that's kind of how I've come to it. And I think through yoga and through different traditions and through different experiences and things that we've learned and studied, it's just become so apparent how important it is to come back to the body. And I love that we're both kind of leading in this space and also just figuring out what that means for us.
Yeah, I definitely agree. And yeah, I think we have similar parallels in the sense of having this disconnect from our body at an early age and really going down so many different avenues trying to connect, but not really knowing that it was just all about like returning into the body, into the sensation. And yeah, I love that we're both doing very similar practices
Mm,
that are continuing to parallel and just can kind of like use so many different avenues of returning to self, returning to body, and this connection. But ultimately, that being a big part of our healing journey is like returning to our body.
yeah. Yeah, it's so important. I think that when I was young, I mean, I'm sure I still do it all the time now, but it's like, especially when I was a kid, I would just be so in my head all the time, like, and not even in a bad way, like some just being in school and class, like literally off in fairy tale land, like just, or, and yeah, maybe you can relate where it's just, we either like whatever was in front of us wasn't engaging enough or it wasn't important enough for us to really pay attention to. And for me, it caused me to just feel like, okay, I'm bored and I don't know, there was a whole other reality that I was creating, but not in a way that I knew that I was doing it. It
Yeah.
wasn't like I had imaginary friends that I was talking to. It was more just like I had a very, visual, expansive mind, but it
Mhm.
wasn't like it was anything. I just thought that that's how, like, experience was, you know? And I think growing up in a society that doesn't exactly value that can be, um a bit challenging, but also at the same time reinforces the idea that, like, it's not necessarily safe to be in the body for people like us. I
Yeah.
don't know.
I think that was something I learned really early on was that it was just safer to be in my head than in my body because once I would access or find small moments of being in my body, there was so much discomfort or pain or
Mm,
unsettled feelings. And so me personally was just like always in my head, kind of
yeah,
going to imagination or a little bit of fantasy land.
yeah,
And I mean, my name is Erica, so a nickname that my family gave me was Airy. And so I've always like been called this airy person.
mm,
And I think it actually, like, resonates with the air element is being our thoughts
yeah.
and imagination, and yeah, it's a fun place to be, but also is important to bring it back down sometimes.
Yeah, and I think at this point in the journey, especially, like, lately, I've been coming to the realization of, for the last few years, it's been this, kind of flip a little bit where it's like, "Oh, I'm so airy," and you, like, kind of get mad at yourself or punish yourself for just being up in the clouds all the time,
Yeah.
and now I'm kind of realizing that, like, yes, it's so important to be in this body and here and now, and there's so much more we can access when we do that, and also, like, that's a superpower, it's a strength, and it's, like, the way in which we were made, right? It's, like, that amazing gift that we have that we can use to elevate our lives and everybody's around us. And it doesn't have to be this thing that we're like looked down upon for it, or
Yeah,
you,
totally.
you just maybe haven't quite developed the, the pathway in which to make that
Yeah, I
our
think I love that, just kind of drawing it back to being a superpower because it can be something that others might perceive in a certain way, but just remembering that it is a gift and, like, something that we have the unique quality to do.
yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Was it one of those situations that when you got older, when you came out of school, when you were like starting to get into your 20s, like what was it that caused you to look at things differently? Or what was it that like when did you have that aha of like, oh, I've actually been living out of my body for so long and that maybe it's important to come back to, like, was it like a forced thing where you're like, oh, I just like, it like kind of kicked you in that direction? Or was it more of like a, oh, maybe like a curiosity that kind of led you into your path?
I would say a little bit of both. It was definitely a circumstantial stacking of many experiences, but ultimately, from a young age, I was constantly getting sick and having health issues.
Hmm.
And all throughout high school, there was a really strong disconnect. And my parents would often just say, "You'll outgrow it. Like, once you get older, you won't have these problems, don't worry about it."
Hmm.
And that belief kinda sank into me of like, "Okay, the older I get, the healthier I'll become almost."
Hmm.
And
Not a terrible belief.
but interesting
Yeah.
to, like, never have addressed the, like, real issues.
Yeah.
So yeah, since I was really little, I would be, like, quite unwell. Every morning I would throw up,
Hmm. Wow.
and that started, like, in kindergarten all the way up until high school.
Wow, that's so young.
So young. And I never got diagnosed with anxiety until I was in high school, and I actually had a fainting spell. I was working at a restaurant, and there was so much stress and pressure that I looked at someone and I was like, "I'm gonna fall over, like, I'm gonna faint."
Wow.
And I ended up fainting there, and that's when I really started to realize something's wrong on the inside or, like, something physiologically is not right.
Yeah.
And I also grew up in a family that had seemingly endless health issues.
Which is that why they told you you'll grow out of it, or?
Yeah, kind of.
Hmm.
I think, like, my siblings also had kind of similar experiences, but when my brother did get older and, like, went off to college, he didn't have those problems, so I
Hmm.
think that's where, yeah, my mom was kind of saying, you'll be fine eventually. But it wasn't really until high school that I started to kind of take my health into my own account because there was just multiple things that I was working with. And, when you're young, you want to be vital and have energy and be able to go out. But it seemed like every time I would go out, I would then be sick for the coming weeks. And
Wow.
like going out for 1 or 2 nights would then just leave me totally depleted. And once everybody was, like, starting to apply for college, there was just this thought of, "I don't have the capacity to go to college, like, I just did 12 years of school, there's no way I could do more,"
Yeah.
and I had no idea what I wanted to do either, but that's when I started working at a natural food store,
Hmm.
and I was actually studying with an herbalist there, and she took me to this expo, and I got to see this Doctor Zach Bush, I don't know if you're familiar with
Yeah,
him?
totally.
I saw him speak.
Wow.
And that completely shifted the trajectory of my path, and that was a really pivotal moment where I realized everything I put into and surround myself with has an effect on me,
Wow.
and that's when I really felt like, "Okay, now I really need to take my health back into my hands," and started making subtle changes in, like, diet and lifestyle,
Mm.
and it just continued to snowball effect, and yeah, then I got into yoga and different embodiment and meditation and
Mhm.
eating whole foods and
Yeah.
yeah.
Yeah, and, Zach Bush is powerful, and he speaks on, life and the body in such a wide way, like, he's able to zoom out, I feel, and look at from the macro to the micro, and,
Yeah.
um, I really respect what he teaches and how he looks at the body in a non-conventional way. But when you're talking about, because like that's how I started, was like trying to like fix everything with like
Mhm.
supplements and like the things that I was eating or then not eating was, really rooting out all the processed foods and trying to like combat this with that. And it was like just a never ending cycle. But I also always knew that I was going to be like able to overcome
Mm.
all the struggles with my body. Did you kind of have like a similar thing when you started, or was it just, or did you just kind of go in with both feet? And,
Yeah, I tend to have this thing where I can go really hard in one direction. So when I started trying to switch my diet, I would notice myself, like, being really restrictive
mm,
and then trying to implement, yeah, so many different habits and changes in my life that would also burn me out.
mm-hmm,
So I have this really strong, like, balancing that I still am working with, but
mm-hmm.
I think I think deep down I did know that I was gonna heal and that I knew this work I was doing was then gonna ultimately, like, be of service to other people.
Yeah, 100%.
Yeah.
Yeah. And it's like, I think for a long part of that journey, you can't even think about other people because it's just like, you just got to do what you got to do to live, to like
Mhm.
have a somewhat of a normal life. Right.
Yeah.
And at the same time, hold that knowing that this is all gonna be for something so big that that it's gonna impact the world, whether it's for 5 people or 5,000 or whatever. I just like, I don't know, I could never live with this thing that happened to me for no reason, you
Yeah.
know?
Well, it, like, comes back to the saying, "Our greatest pain is our purpose."
Yeah,
So, yeah, knowing that we have struggled in certain health ways and uncovering what systems really do work for us or don't work for us. That is the ultimate gift to then be able to share that because, of
yeah,
course, there's gonna be people out there who resonate to some capacity.
yeah, yeah, 100%. So I know that you're big into yoga, and this has been primarily the thing over the last few years that's really helped you kind of come back home to your body. Do you want to share a little bit about like what even drew you to yoga and what resonated for you when you started practicing, and what's the main thing that you're working with right now within that context? Or
Yeah.
that's a big open, open, but
It's okay. Yeah, so I actually came to yoga in 2020, right when the pandemic hit.
Oh, wow.
Everything was in lockdown, and I stumbled upon this online 30-day yoga challenge. And previously, I had been going to the chiropractor because I had asthma and I was always trying to open my chest. And
Mm,
I just felt really constricted in my front body. And they recommended I do yoga.
mm,
And I had actually tried it. My sister was an instructor. I had gone to a couple of her classes, but nothing had clicked at that point. So then lockdown came and I stumbled upon this 30-day challenge. And for whatever reason, that really drew me in. And I stayed consistent. I showed up for 30 days and pretty early on, I just knew I was hooked. Like
mhm,
something kept drawing me back. And I think it was the first time I was able to truly feel this peace within myself and the world around me was quiet, but the internal world was so loud. In that 30-day challenge, I started to like quiet my inner world. And so I continued to practice. And at that time, I was doing more yin and restorative style. So I was just holding shapes for really long periods of
which
time.
is not easy, like, internally or
No.
externally.
Yeah, but I
Yeah.
would, like, literally hold reclined butterfly for 10 plus minutes,
Wow.
and I would get into really magnified meditative states and just go somewhere else.
Wow.
And I was like, "Oh my gosh, is this what other people experience? Like, what is happening?" And so I just got really fascinated, and I think fast forward about a year, I was starting to, like, go to more classes
Mhm.
or find online classes at that time. And then I came across a yoga teacher training, and it was in Hawaii. One, I just wanted to go to Hawaii.
Yeah, 'cause who doesn't?
Right. Um, but it was also really weaving the energetics and spiritual side, which I was starting to graze on my own personally,
Mhm.
but I wanted to dive deeper into that. And so weaving more energetics really sparked my curiosity, and then going on that training just kinda catapulted it.
Mm,
And then it wasn't for a year after my training, where I was still really diving deep into my own practice, that I then decided I actually wanted to teach and share it with others because it was what really, like, brought me back into my body
yeah.
and found this stillness within.
Mm. Yeah, it's beautiful. I feel like every person that stumbles upon or starts getting into yoga will come at it from a different angle.
Mhm.
And when you go straight into like yin and restorative, I mean, like, it's a bold move because I think from somebody who came more in the other side of it, I always really liked hatha.
Mhm.
Um, I never really loved vinyasa, mostly because it required more strength than I had at the time. But every time, whatever style I was doing in yoga, I felt like, okay, this is good for me to just be able to drop in and understand what's happening in the body. But I still wanted to be able to, like, I had the perseverance in my mind. But the more that I started doing it and more practicing more and more, like, there was an ongoing story that would play out every single class that I would go to. And I did do it online a few times. That's how I started because I was, like, way too afraid to go to a
Yeah.
class full of women and be, like, embarrassed. But it's like there's something that really happens where you get to see what's playing. You get to pause from the everyday world, right? And you get to be like, "Oh, this is happening all the time, and I just now realize it." And this is a time where I get to be on the mat and just, like, let it do its thing without me having to identify it. I don't know. I think
Yeah.
that's, like, the one of the first aha moments that I have with
Mm.
yoga. But for you, it sounds like you just went straight into
Yeah, I was having, like, these transcendental experiences, and I was like, "I want more of that,"
Yeah,
but I also didn't really know what was happening,
yeah.
and so I was, like, yeah, trying to figure out where I was going in
Mm,
these different realms, almost.
mm,
Um, but I also agree that with time, I started to recognize different patterns, different beliefs, different stories within myself, and then over time was able to, like, slow down in the recognition of those stories to then eventually rewrite them if I
yeah,
wanted to.
yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, which is really powerful. But either way, it's like whatever door you come in, I think you and I both gotten to this point where we realize like the body is the key. It's the portal into something that's just so much bigger. And however you want to work with it, however that, whatever you're needing at the time, it will kind of meet you at. But
Yeah.
um, what have you seen within your students that's been
Mm,
the most common theme of why they come or what they struggle with in their practice?
that's a good question. I think a common thread is to feel better in their body.
Hmm.
I think a lot of people have some extent of discomfort or pain and are looking for relief. And the certain classes I was teaching, I was noticing people were wanting more of a physical practice, more asana focused.
Yeah.
And so I would, try my best to weave in different elements that bring in yogic philosophy that support the mental and spiritual side.
Yeah.
But I think overall, the biggest thing I would see is people just wanting to feel better in their body within themselves.
Yeah. Totally. And even at the very least, an hour or 75 minutes of you not being next to your phone is already doing a lot of the work, right?
Yeah,
It's
that's so
like
true.
I don't have
That's
this
so
constant escape that I can just go to right
yeah.
away where it's like, okay, I've designated this time for myself to be in it. Whatever in it means,
Yeah.
I think letting go of some of that is already effective. But
Yeah, that's so true. I would often hear like, "Oh, this is my time." Like families getting ready for school, doing their
yeah,
thing. This is just for me.
yeah.
Yeah, that's true.
I mean, and from what I would experience within your classes, I loved how you were able to take that shorter class, the
Mhm.
more physical class, and be able to weave in even 5 or 3 minutes at the beginning and the end for some stillness, for some reflection, and be able to again relate that back into the body and then provide reminders along the way of like, hey, we're not just doing this to fix or force the body into
Mm.
these things, into these positions. It's like, yeah, it's great when you have the ability to push yourself and say, oh, look at what my body can do. But if you're just trying to like work out, I think people are missing the point of yoga.
Yeah, and I feel like that's way more common than I would like it to be.
Yeah.
People just wanting to work out, but yeah, I appreciate you saying that about my class, and that again is like another balancing thing of trying to meet the students' needs, but also really keeping yoga, the practice, at its roots. And
Yeah.
like, yeah, it is amazing to see what the physical body is capable of or entering a pose that you might not have been able to do after you keep coming, but really being with the breath, being with the body, noticing the thoughts that come in when maybe you can't get into a certain pose and
Yeah.
sitting with all that wants to come up.
Yeah. Do you see a lot of like that competitive mindset within yoga? Like people are like upset that the person next to them or in front of them is doing all these crazy things when they're like just started and they don't have the flexibility or the strength or like
I think there is definitely that in the yoga culture. And I think where we are in particular in the world, like there are a lot of really skilled yogis
yeah,
here.
yeah, there are.
And I know when I personally first moved here, I was super intimidated. I was going to classes and it was in all levels, vinyasa, and I was doing things I had never even heard of or never even seen.
Yeah,
And I was thinking to myself, oh gosh, I'm not good enough.
yeah,
There's no way I can be a teacher here.
yeah,
So I do think there is that competitiveness, even though that word sounds so strong, but there is maybe a drive to meet certain physical poses
yeah.
or challenge in
I think I
practice.
think it's not often named enough in classes
Yeah.
where there's these beginners that are curious about it, but then they might get so turned off because they're either not able or don't know how, or there's just like they're comparing themselves to everyone in the room. At least this was kind of my journey when I went to India for my teacher training.
Mhm.
That was the main thing of like that I'm not good enough. Like I went for Ashtanga,
Oh,
which was
wow.
ridiculous. Someone had told me along the way that it wasn't going to be that hard, but I didn't actually realize what Ashtanga was.
Yeah.
It was like Ashtanga and Hatha, and so I
Oh,
was going for more Hatha, but it ended up being more Ashtanga
of course.
at like six in the morning, and me like we're learning a few poses every single day until we get the whole primary series. And if you have no idea what I'm talking about, like that's totally fine. It's just like this repetitive series, and it sounds in theory like, okay, cool. Once you just learn the whole set, then it's good. You just do that over and over again. And it kind of gets you, like, the idea is for it to get you out of your mind, because your body knows intuitively, or I guess maybe it's not, maybe that's not the right word, but it just knows already because of so many repetitions that your body knows the pose before you're even going to do it. So it's like anticipating everything that's coming next. And in theory, it's great, but a lot of these postures are intensely like
They're
they're they're
challenging.
challenging, not only on like, do I have the strength to do this? No. And also like the flexibility that you have to even get in some of this. And me, as a still a relatively new yogi, going to India where everything's really
Mm.
intense, I was like, what am I doing? And I got so triggered. The whole month there, I was just like, what is happening? I'm in this portal of Rishikesh where sages over the thousands of years have meditated. And it's like, very, very magical. But also, it's one of those places that just brings up your shit.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I think too, going on any sort of immersive yoga training is gonna bring up a lot personally
Yeah.
because you're literally diving as deep as you can into the practice, but meeting yourself on so many different levels.
Yeah. Did you
So
experience yeah, it was. I was like, what am I doing? And I like didn't give myself that, like, of course was just beating myself up the whole
yeah.
way, right? Because this is just what is around. This is what's normal.
Yeah.
This is what you signed up for. But I didn't really anticipate this until later on when I started learning. But there was quite a few people in my training and even in the ashram and the school that I was at that were getting sick like within the first week.
Mm.
And I thought, oh, it's just because we're in India, we're around a bunch of people, we've all been traveling, whatever. But I didn't realize until I started working with the fascia and all the stuff later is that when you start to detox the body through the breath, through these postures, through all of it, then you're cleaning house. And
Yeah.
that comes with physical symptoms, whether it manifests as like a cold or a throat thing or whatever it may be. A lot of people were sitting in the back of the room because they couldn't do alternate nostril breathing. They
Mm.
couldn't, they were just sick. And I don't even like that term, but did you experience that when you went to Hawaii for your first training or?
That's actually so interesting you bring that up because now as I think back, I was the one who was sick. I
Oh,
was the one who was, like, coughing continuously or feeling nauseous, feeling more unwell than others. This
probably.
was, like, still shortly after COVID, and I remember people were wearing masks because they're like, "Oh, Erica's sick." And kind of at the time, I was like, "Oh, yeah, I just traveled, I have a weaker immune system, of course I get sick."
Yeah.
But we were also eating a very, like, cleansing diet of khichdi or papaya
Yeah.
seeds, and yeah, I don't know if I ever made that connection until you said that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, I think when you go from practicing once or twice a week or every so often to then practicing 2 or 3 times a day, like your body's gonna naturally react or
Yeah,
respond and say,
yeah,
well, okay, what's going on? And it's like whether or not I mean, you should be eating healthy at uh, yoga teacher training, but
yeah.
regardless of that, I think it's like you are actually cleansing your body through all of these different pathways,
No, it's so
and
true.
yeah,
Yeah.
kind of wild.
Yeah, it's super interesting, but
But
it makes a lot of sense.
yeah, my teachers talk a lot about it within the human garage, within the fascial maneuvers that I teach. It's when you do this consistently over every day for a little while, that's just what it's part of it. And they even will go as far as to say when there is this cold going around or whatever, this is your body saying, okay, I am physically getting rid of what I don't need. It's not
Mhm.
you being like, my immune system's weak or whatever, I can't handle this. It's actually something that is ready to leave is now leaving, and it could have been stuck there for 10, 20, 15, like whatever, however many years. It's been stuck in a specific part of the body, and now you're actually doing the work to release it. Like
Yeah,
it's
that's
gonna come
strong.
out somehow.
Totally. Yeah, that's such a good perspective to have though, of like we don't always know what we're working with and like it's not just at the surface. It could be really deep seated things that have been
Yeah.
stored for however long, you know?
Yeah, and then where, you talk about the belief patterns or the actual mental thought loops that have been living in this emotion that was stuck in a specific part of the body, like, how much needs
Yeah.
to come out because of that as well.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah, it goes deep.
yeah, it really does. I mean, have you worked with, like, I know that you are very intentional about the embodiment piece and slowing down and the really, like, getting in and understanding what's there, but sometimes I think with what I've noticed in my body is being inspired and empowered of like, oh, my body can access this pose now. I couldn't do it for this amount of time or whatever. Have you seen certain ways in which that has happened in your practice? And then on the flip side, have you been able to figure out how to work with some of those limiting beliefs that have come up in you and however you practice? I don't know if I'm asking this question correctly, but
Well, I've definitely seen progression over the years of like, when I first came to the practice, I felt really stiff, and I think that's why yin and restorative was really supportive for me because it was uncomfortable, and had this feeling that I wasn't doing it right when I was
mhm,
getting into flows because my posture wasn't as aligned. And
yeah,
so, for me, I definitely worked on a lot of chest openers, and I can't think of a certain pose. Maybe puppy pose, like, that was one where it was super uncomfortable for me. My
mhm,
shoulders were tight, my chest was tight, but kind of opening both sides. I have been able to access that a lot deeper,
yeah,
and it is really interesting when you get to a deeper level in a shape, what is more coming up emotionally.
mhm,
'Cause I've had experiences where I am holding maybe pigeon pose or reclined butterfly, and then I do start crying. And I'm like, "Oh, okay, we're working with something deeper than just the tight hips."
yeah,
Like, more emotions, more stories are being stored here. And a big wound, big belief of I'm not good enough is something that I've worked with. And there is kind of this ping that you get when you access a new pose or can go a little deeper in the stretch of, "Oh, yeah, I can do that.
mm,
Oh, yeah, I can do hard things.
yeah,
Oh, yeah, like, of course I'm capable." So, it's been a pretty steady progression. I haven't necessarily worked to train or get a particular pose down, but it's really subtle
mm,
in my journey of being in a class, whether that's on my own practice or in somebody else's class where, yeah, you might just be able to sink a little deeper into the sensation
yeah,
and be like, "Damn,
I got this.
Erica just a year ago, like, couldn't have been holding the shape."
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, and it's cool to be able to have that measurement of time being like,
Yeah.
"Okay, I am making progress," even if in the day to day it doesn't really seem like it, but
Yeah.
over time, you're like, "Wow, okay, I'm like not only am I doing things I never was doing, like, I'm a different person," and
Yeah,
yeah.
definitely.
Have you noticed when you're working on those specific tight hips or specific chest openers or whatever, that there might equally be something going on in the external world that's like a situation presenting itself that also is related to what you're
Yeah,
working through?
yeah, that's another interesting and good perspective to have because when my chest was super tight and I was having really bad asthma flare-ups, I was actually in a pretty unhealthy relationship. And
Mm,
so my love life was not
con
doing great.
constricted?
It was very constricted and I was like, hunched over and almost protecting myself. The way my physical body was showing up was in this protective mode of like, "Oh no, I can't open my heart. It's not safe."
Mm,
And so over time, I realized, okay, what I ended up leaving that relationship and over time, continuing the chest openers, eventually didn't have asthma flare ups, didn't need my inhaler. And I
wow.
was just able, that was actually one of the first big moments was when I could start to feel the phlegm in my chest start to go down. and almost disperse,
Wow.
that was when I knew it was working on deeper levels,
Yeah.
these shapes.
Yeah, because how long has that phlegm been stored in there? Like, what is
Right.
actually being
Yeah.
released from the tissue?
Totally.
Yeah, and I think it's like when you have that big of a shift of like I've had asthma for my whole life and or however long, and it's actually not affecting me anymore.
I have no symptoms of asthma now.
Who says the body doesn't heal itself? Like, who says we need to go to these? I mean, of course, there is absolutely a time and a place for a doctor
Yeah.
if things are extreme. Um, but I just am so unconventional when it comes to what people tell me is right to do. Like, I just know that I have basically devoted my life towards looking to how to avoid that in a
Yeah.
healthy way, right?
Yeah.
And like, oh, I actually have the tools and the know-how and the means to understand what's happening to then just work with it on my own, or at least know the person that I need to go see to help me through that. But yeah,
Yeah, something that Zach Bush preaches is that our body does have all the tools it needs to heal itself. And so when the body is functioning properly, we have access to heal.
yeah,
And I like to refer to the body sometimes as a fine-tuned instrument. And so when we are tuning ourselves and kind of readjusting to our conditions, but when we find that right balance, like we're gonna function
yeah.
in an ideal state, in our optimized state.
Yeah, and then also learning what notes to play, right? And, like,
Yeah.
you know, for a fine-tuned instrument, like, what can we then do with that? What
Yeah.
can we how do we wanna be tuned? Like, I don't know, that's where you can start to get into the subtleties. I always say we're not here to just survive, like, we wanna be thriving, right? We wanna have, like, a good, expansive, open-hearted, like, amazing life where things come to us effortlessly. And when we understand that we are that instrument, okay, well, what songs do we want to
Yeah.
play now?
Yeah.
Yeah, it's so wild to see what this actual physical vessel is capable of and what we have just been avoiding. And I'm still guilty of it, right? I'm still going off in the mind. I'm still
Yeah.
so avoidant in so many different areas where I'm working on it. But, when you start to have the awareness around you start to compound those experiences and those, times in which you were able to recognize, you were able to overcome it, and then you realize that all the courses, all the things that you've been doing, all like, the pings that you got were, like, leading you to exactly the right experience that
Mhm.
you needed
Yeah.
to then work on the thing that was, like, the most prominent in your life,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah, definitely. I think that's where I start to lean towards like naturopathic medicine, really getting to the root cause of things
Yeah.
and definitely agree and resonate when you said like not really being the conventional with going to doctors and um yeah, just allowing yourself to get to the root of something rather than just continue to pile things on that aren't actually addressing the main concern.
Yeah.
Because those are just Band-Aid solutions that will eventually fall and will just continue to wrap it instead of actually tend to what needs to be looked at and
Yeah.
addressed. So I always loved uncovering the layers and really getting to what wants to be worked with.
Yeah. Have you found that your, or I guess I should say, I know the answer, but how have you found that your intuition has strengthened through all this? Because there's a million things that we could try to go do or buy or figure out or take or what all the things that we were trying to do to help us overcome the thing that's bothering us, right? But how have you been able to weed out some of the noise or to
Mm.
understand like I actually have everything I need. I just need to listen and really tune into what it is that wants to help me in this moment versus just trying to, you know, spread your energy so thin and
Yeah, I think my meditation practice has been really important for me so that I, for one, can become a clear channel. And when I do receive downloads from something greater than just myself, I can trust that more.
Hmm.
And it is clear that that was a message for me or that was a signal to go in that direction. And a big practice is simply just learning what a yes feels like in your body and what a no feels like in your body.
Mm,
And I think oftentimes we're taught or maybe guided to figure out what a no feels like, but we don't often look into what a yes feels like.
mm,
And so that was a really important thing in my life that has helped me a lot. And
yeah,
then just knowing, oh, a yes to me is like a softening in the chest that goes down into my belly.
yeah.
And it's almost a deep exhale. Whereas a no is constriction. And maybe I feel my shoulders start to rise or
Mhm.
start to move forward. And so that was really pivotal for me.
Yeah. And when you're in the middle of trying to make that decision or trying to understand if it's a yes or a no, like how long in those in that practice do you have to sit with it to know, is my mind just making this up, or is my shoulders, did I do that, or like, because it's, for me it's very subtle, and it takes that time to develop over. It's not just going to happen on the first time. It might be, and might that's great if you can tune into yourself that strongly. But
Yeah.
if you've never practiced it, in my experience,
Yeah,
yeah.
it's definitely a skill that needs refinement. And I think it's with every choice that we make, there is going to be that subtlety in our body of a yes or a no. We might not be tuning into it with every decision, but then it's kind of noticing the outcomes.
Mm,
Like, oh, that actually worked out really well for me. Like, of course that was meant for me. But then when you kind of go somewhere and you're maybe thinking in your head, this doesn't feel totally right, but I'm going to keep trying anyway. And then the outcome isn't so great.
yeah,
You're like, oh, I maybe should have listened
didn't
to
listen.
those words.
Yeah. It's like the affirmation, not exactly in the affirmations that we typically think, like using positive words or whatever, but it's like, oh, I'm affirming to myself that this actually was a route to take and that things actually turned out to be pretty good, or
Yeah.
and vice versa. Okay, well, I'm affirming the fact that I didn't listen to myself and like
Yeah.
the that voice. And
Yeah, exactly.
yeah. Have you found that voice, that internal, whether it's your heart or soul or whatever you like to call it, has gotten a little bit stronger, or is it?
I refer to it as my soul, and it definitely gets stronger with practice,
Mhm.
and it's also something I think we'll continuously be working on.
Yeah.
But for those who are already on their spiritual path and notice and can sense their direction, it just gets easier and easier
Mm.
to listen to that voice
Yeah.
and trust your intuition. But I mean, I have a recent experience of where I wasn't listening to those words, but I was still going after an experience that I desired.
Yeah.
And then I was in that experience, and it took me like a week of kind of battling in my mind, do I stay or do I go? And finally removing myself from that situation entirely and seeing immediate shifts in the external world.
Mm.
So it's something I think we'll always be working on. That will Yeah, the stronger our connection to self is, I think the clearer our channel can become, the more easier it is for us to tap into our soul, that
Yeah.
higher wisdom.
Yeah, I think that's something that I, like, just wanna scream from the rooftops, is that there is a guiding force. You can listen, you can tune into your own voice, and you can understand that life is always working with you to give you these subtle clues to allow you to not only work with what's inside, but what's outside, right? You can shift your movie, your world,
Yeah.
just by listening and saying, okay, I know what to do in the moment, and I'm empowered to actually make that decision.
Yeah. And yeah, that's so much of the work I'm doing right now is being able to feel safe enough in the body to feel those subtleties and actually acknowledge and move forward in our life, being able to pick up those cues.
Mm,
And once you do, you will start to see bigger shifts in your life
yeah,
and being able to get out of those victim mindsets of like, "Oh no, life is so hard," or
yeah,
"Life is working against me." That's where I've really started to see bigger story shifts in my
yeah.
timeline.
I think being able to bring that into the body is so important, because it's again working with everything that we have. And just being so out there, listening to the voice out, like just being able to have that spiritual, energetic nature, I feel like isn't quite enough. We have to be able to
Mm,
work with it on all the levels. We have to be able to bring it into the body. And I've seen so many people that are more like seemingly connected yet disconnected,
mm,
and um, doing everything that they can to listen to their intuition without actually acting on what they need to do. And so that's what I was going to ask you. Are you seeing where you're able to plan long term? Like, are you able to, as you're listening to this voice, as you're listening to the intuition on what to do and what needs to shift in your internal world, are you able to plan long term of what you actually want? Or are you still in the phase of like just trying to root it all out of, what shouldn't be there? Like,
mm.
have you found that kind of push and pull, like balance aspect of like, I'm just not ready for that right now? Or it's starting to become clear that it's not yet? Like,
I think I think I know the direction I'm going. And something that I like to anchor myself in is the lifestyle I'm living is my purpose because I'm living it.
mm,
This is my purpose because I'm living it.
mm,
And so trusting that on a greater level gives me a bit of direction so that I can plan, but I'm also a person who still loves spontaneity.
totally.
And like recently went to Thailand for a couple of months, totally on a whim. Like it wasn't something I planned, though it was a thought I had. It came up really quickly and then I just quit all my jobs. Like, yeah, I'm gonna do that.
Wow. Yeah.
So it's a little bit of both. But then in that experience of going to Thailand, then that's where I had to get a little bit more clear with myself of, okay, I don't really have a plan of being here, but how can I make this work for me?
Mm,
And then in that time, listening and trying to continue to like find my direction.
yeah, like a compass.
Exactly.
I'm trying to point
Yeah.
to
Our
north.
intuition is our internal compass.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. And sometimes that compass, like, leads you to a place that you didn't quite expect or maybe even want to be in,
Totally.
and it's not that it's the wrong place, it's just
Yeah.
that it's the place that you weren't quite hoping for, and you're like,
Yeah.
okay, well, now what?" Right? Like we were just
Yeah.
talking about.
Yeah, and sometimes it's not what you think you want, but it's what you need. And even in that time, it can feel really sticky and uncomfortable, but knowing that there's probably a really good lesson in there.
Yeah, and not viewing our past as a complete, like, failure or, like, waste of time or, like, that was the wrong decision because it ended up in this way that I want. I mean, we're circling around the fact that, like, you were able to, I don't know if you feel like sharing, but, just, going to Thailand, being on this amazing island, having this amazing experience, and then having your physical body being like,
Yeah.
yeah.
Yeah, I think this has actually been like one of the most challenging things in my journey so
Mm,
far. And yeah, it's definitely not what I wanted in any way. Like
yeah,
I was set out to go on my next teacher training and kind of reach new levels in my physical body of expanding my capacity to hold things, but also to experience new things and access newness. And then having my like real ability to move in the ways that I love, but also almost the only ways I know how
yeah.
being taken, yeah, completely shifted everything.
Mm. I'm like internally laughing because I feel like those are all the things that you're going to do. You're going to access the newness. You're going to come to new
Mm.
levels within your physical body. You're going to do all this by slowing down and like not having anything else to do but focus on your body.
It's true.
I think all those things are possible. And if I was in your situation, I'd be like, well, fuck, like this isn't what I wanted or
Yeah.
expected, and yet, like, those are all the things that you've asked for, and this is just the way in which it's played out, but
Yeah,
mm,
totally. And it kind of goes back to what we were talking about earlier. Sometimes yeah, it's not what we think, but it is what we need. And it's still in this space of, I don't know why it had to happen this way. And
Yeah.
like, I think there is a little bit of victim mentality around it still. But then having people who can kind of remind you of like, well, you did say like, this is what you wanted.
Yeah.
So that even you reflecting that is like a good reminder.
Well, I mean, I think it'd be good for you to share the experience so there's a little bit of context. But the thing that's also coming to me right now is before you left for this big endeavor, like I know that you were kind of it's like you had been in Santa Cruz for a while and the housing situation was kind of up in the air and you were like didn't know if you wanted to stay or if you should stay, and even though like you felt like you got a lot out of it and like I don't know, here's a kind of a maybe a more clear sign of like, no, this is what you have to like root down for a second.
Yeah. Yeah. So to go a little more
Yeah.
into it, yeah, so essentially my housing has been pretty unstable, and to get a little more esoteric, your living situation is really related to your root chakra, and your
Mm,
root chakra is really reflected as your stability and structure within your life. So when your living situation feels unsafe or unsteady, that can create ripples into your everyday life. And so I think there was a lot of confusion circulating within me of like, okay, I might not have it, but I might have it. What do I do? So that path wasn't clear to me. And I think when there's a lot of confusion, that can be an over identification with the ego. And when the ego is talking, that's where the lines can get a little bit blurry in trusting your intuition.
mm,
And so then the idea of going to Thailand came up, and I happened to know people who were going to be there. So I kind of sped up the process of getting there and thought, because my housing situation is rocky, what a perfect time to leave it behind and just focus elsewhere. And then planning that, I was stacking a yoga teacher training within that international trip to kind of get more out of it.
yeah.
So I get to Thailand and I'm hanging out with these people that I knew, and that kind of excited me to get there a little bit quicker. And I didn't know these people very well. And then very early on, I realized these aren't people that I really want to be around.
Oh,
And so that was the internal battle of, okay, do I stay here where I've already committed to this housing situation, or do I reroute myself in a foreign country and go off on my own? And that's essentially what I needed to do. And that voice just got louder and louder every day that I stayed. And once I left and kind of started doing my own thing, immediately started drawing in people that felt so much more resonant with me.
mhm,
I was I could feel an immediate shift in my own energy, feeling more radiant, feeling more connected to myself. And that's when I started to slow down and really just be able to appreciate where I was, like my first time in Thailand. And at first, I was just kind of like going through the motions of being there, but not fully embracing it.
yeah,
Then when I went on my own, I was really able to fully embrace it and be like, wow, this is amazing. I'm here. Let's make the most of this. And so a month goes on, and I had been dancing every day, multiple times a day, doing yoga often. And all of a sudden, in a dance class, my kneecap dislocates. And I immediately knew something was wrong. Something had torn, and swelling quickly came. And I wasn't able to bear weight on my left leg literally right after. And so then everything shifted, and all of my attention is going there, and my body was just responding to that immediate injury
mm.
and trauma, essentially. And so I don't even know what your question was or like where I was going with
I
it.
just said context for this, around this stability piece, I
Okay,
think.
yeah. So,
Or no, we were talking I'm sorry, we were talking about, like, you being called to go in a direction
oh,
that you listen to, and
yeah,
then you get there, and then
right,
something happens that actually is not favorable or not what you
right.
wanted, but it's actually exactly what you needed.
Yeah. So essentially, am not able to move. I'm not able to do yoga. I'm not able to dance. I am walking with crutches and am completely now reliant on other people to support me. And it happens to be my left leg, and left side represents your feminine,
Mhm.
and it also is your receival side. And so a big part of, I think, what I am supposed to learn from this injury is accepting support,
Yeah.
learning how to receive, especially because I feel like I'm such a giver. It was really challenging, and I noticed how stubborn I was in accepting help.
Mm,
And, like, every day there was a lesson or there was a moment of people doing something for me that felt uncomfortable, that I did not want to accept, but I literally had to.
yeah.
And so I think it was a huge part of my experience, but yeah, being on a beautiful remote island where everyone around you is super active and there's all these different events, workshops, classes, and experiences happening
They
to
get
then
it.
be almost entrapped in your body and then entrapped where you are physically. Like I didn't want to leave my little jungle house. So, yeah, the experience became something entirely different.
Mm,
And I was angry. I was super upset.
yeah.
And I was also super in my head because it was so uncomfortable to be in my body
Yeah.
because it was painful. It was something I'd never experienced before. I didn't know how to navigate it. And as I'm speaking it more, it does help me process it because I'm
Yeah.
still, in that.
Well, and it's just you were talking about like, "Oh, I still wanna know why that happened," but to me, it seems pretty clear, like, okay,
Yeah.
it happened immediately where it was like, "Okay, you gotta learn how to receive that help."
Yeah.
Yeah, and when you said, your housing was feeling unstable, and then we talked about the knees being
Yeah.
stability, right? I'm
Exactly.
just like, "Okay, well, the stability has to come from within, and when it's not
Yeah.
coming from without, or maybe it's like knowing that it will come,
Yeah.
just not in the situation that it currently is now."
Right. Yeah.
Yeah,
No, those are, yeah, both really key aspects to this.
yeah. Well, I mean, you made it back.
I
So
did. Made it back. Got an MRI.
yeah.
Got a little bit more clarity. Which also when you're in those experiences that are a bit, like, higher intensity, I noticed that was so much of what I was craving was certainty,
Mhm.
when all I had was uncertainty,
Yeah,
and my body and mind was just, like, desiring that so deeply.
yeah. Sometimes we gotta go out there in the world, especially to other countries. I find when you're so far away from home in a different culture and you are in a situation where you don't know how you're gonna get to where you're gonna get to, or you don't have the means that you would normally have, or the language is just, those are the times when you realize what you're made of. I,
Yeah.
it's wild. I don't know. I've had some situations when I was getting back from Mexico. Like, I have no idea how I made it home. I, like, had lived there for almost 2 years, and then this is kind of like a long but quick story, but I'll, like, make it not so long. Basically, my friend had asked me to drive with him from Mexico up to the States to, like, drop off his van because he had his van down in Mexico. He wanted to bring it back home where we lived outside of Portland. So we drove, like, I don't know how many hours, like, I can't even remember. It was a couple days that
Yeah.
we were driving. And once we were in the States, we were in Nevada and we were at these amazing hot springs in the middle of nowhere in this like ghost town. And we drove away and I don't know, at some point on that drive from Nevada, I realized I didn't have my wallet. And my wallet's just gone. I'm like, I can't, it could be in the sea of his van, but I checked everywhere. And it was like, well, now I'm basically living in another country back in the country that I still currently live in on a road trip with no wallet, no ID, no credit cards, no nothing, and I have
Yeah.
to fly back to Mexico where I was living without all of these things.
Yeah, oh my gosh.
And so basically, I flew back with nothing but a passport.
Wow, okay.
And I had a kombucha business that I was making pesos, which is not mu I wasn't making a lot, but I was making enough to, like, sustain my life.
Yeah.
And so I, like, Venmoed my friend some money, he took some out of his account, and then I flew back with, like, I don't know, 300 bucks cash or something, and then I survived from that and another 2 months of, like, making pesos, and I decided to move from a different city to stay in one city for 3 weeks before I left Mexico, and I get to the spiritual center, and there's, like, all these it's like old people, basically. I'm, like, the youngest person in the entire facility, and then the last day comes, and I realize that I thought my flight was the next day, but turns out
Oh
it's in
god.
an hour from there, and I'm, like, an hour from the airport.
Yeah.
And it was just this idea of support. Like, I quickly tried to figure everyone was, like, calling a taxi for me. I didn't have enough money to pay for the taxi. I've got 3 bags, like, 3 my suitcases full of all my stuff that I'm moving home from. Somehow I was able to a lady came out of nowhere, gave me money to pay the taxi guy. I get there, I'm late, and I think that I'm gonna miss my flight, and I'm trying to, like, tell this lady that she wouldn't let me use a credit card that wasn't, like, a physical credit card to check my bags, and, this is l basically, this is a long way to tell you that, like, somehow, some way, I was going to figure out how I was getting all my stuff, and I literally just looked at this woman in the eye multiple times, and I was like, "I don't know what else to do, but I can't leave here without this stuff." You know?
Yeah.
And basically, she had, like, call a manager and do this whole thing, and they said, "Okay, we're gonna put your bags in, like, where the dogs go," like, it's like, "We'll put it in a separate compartment." And then I was, like, running to my gate, and turns out my flight was delayed. All just, like, fell into place within 2
Yeah.
hours, and I was like, "Oh my god, like, how am I gonna make this
Dang.
work?"
Yeah, that's wild. And it does, it just shows you, like, your resiliency and perseverance and working with what you have.
Yeah.
Like, you will find a way.
And if you don't, then, like, you reroute, and
Yeah, another
something
thing
else.
will yeah.
Yeah. I don't know, it's just sometimes you gotta go like, those are the adventures, the times that you're gonna find who you are. Like, that question you ask yourself all the time, "Who am I? Like, what am I
Yeah.
here to do?" Like, those are the moments when you're like, "Oh, okay, I'm being guided, and I'm exactly where I need to be," and it might kind of
Yeah.
suck for a second, but
Yeah.
looking back, it's like, those are the moments we live for.
Yeah, totally. Really just trusting that it's supposed to be a part of your path because simply it has been your lived experience
Yeah.
and knowing, yeah, that everything is aligning for you.
Yeah, and now I think back to that moment all the time when I'm, like, in this uncertainty, right? In this
Yeah.
place of, like, "What do I do?" Like, how like, what's where's my next move? Like, how am I gonna make it happen? I have no money, and you're, like, trying to do all the things. You're like, "Oh," but you can think back to that time where everything just fell into place.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, definitely. And I mean, I've been these past 2 months, like, really, yeah, trying to navigate it, and I will say coming back home and, like, getting back to the States, which traveling from Thailand back here is like an 18-hour flight, so
And
that alone was a mission.
in an airplane where your knee is like,
Yeah.
"Oh,
I literally bought a business class so I could extend my leg
oh my god."
because I couldn't have done it otherwise.
Yeah.
So, yeah, it is those moments that remind you how strong you are,
Oh,
and yeah,
yeah,
cont just continue to show you what you're made of.
yeah, resiliency and trust.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, this has been fun.
It has been fun.
I appreciate you being vulnerable because it's like one of those things where we talked a little bit about this before, but in those times and those moments, you kind of want to contract, you kind of want to hide, you're not really sure what to do, but to be able to like be on the other side of it and then share and process is you allowing yourself to be seen and is allowing other people to see you in that process. And I think the one thing that maybe we could even talk about next time is like seeing the people, your students, right? The people that you were teaching and learning how to be vulnerable in that. Like, I don't
Mhm.
have to be the perfect one that's figured everything out for me to add value.
Yeah.
And these are the moments where it's like, okay, I get to show that I too am human. And these are the things that we can all help each other with. And so,
Yeah, and it is really beautiful being in more vulnerable states too, and then kind of noticing how people respond to that around you. So in this time of injury, it's been really sweet to see like people close to me, but also people who I barely knew in Thailand want to support me, like want to help me. And so that was something really beautiful to get to experience is yeah, we're all just helping each other
yeah.
home and here to support one another.
Yeah, well, let's keep that energy as we roll through this week. There's certainly been interesting times that we're navigating, and
Yep.
I think more of these conversations kind of just help people understand that we are all in this together, and we all are fumbling and making mistakes on our way to get where we want to be, right? And
Absolutely.
yeah, so I think
Yeah.
we can leave it at that. Thanks so much for
Yeah.
coming on and chatting, and
Yeah. So glad I got to be in your space and be a part of this conversation.
yeah, of course. Yeah, well, for you guys, have an amazing day, have an amazing week. Keep being resilient, keep trusting, and act with the certainty that things will work out exactly as they are. And yeah, I thank you for being here, and we'll see you soon.
That's right.